All right, Sheriff, welcome back to the show. We missed you last week, but we know you were not feeling very well last week, and
it's good to be here. I've been under the weather for a while now. Still a little bit under the weather, so I apologize if I go coughing or anything here in a minute.
Yeah, it's been going around, hasn't it?
It has.
Tyler's not feeling the best right now, so if he gives it back to you, you'll have to blame Tyler.
Makes my voice sound good for radio.
Good radio voice.
We're going to listen to him sing Barry White here in a minute.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're already getting requests for him to do Josh Turner.
There you go.
So we'll see how that goes. All right, so we've had a busy week. We've had Christmas. We have New Year's coming up, and
got the possum drop getting ready to happen.
We have the possum drop, yes. Yeah. So that's going to create
our first annual in Andrews.
Andrews is excited to have that.
They are. They're very excited
this year, and I'm hoping that we'll have the mayors on today, and Mayor James Reed can give one more plug for that.
Maybe he'll wear his possum costume again.
That would be hilarious. So? Yeah, a lot of folks loved that show with him dressed in the possum outfit, and Mayor Ramsey in the Santa Claus outfit. And let's see, Sherry Rain, she was an elf that show.
Right, I believe so.
All right.
We're going to try to be out and assist with that up there. It's one of those things, Brasstown, they had a lot of people that came to the possum drop, and I don't know exactly the numbers, but it was in the thousands that go.
I've been there for a few years, and it jammed packed with people into a small area. So with Andrews, there is a more spread out play, so folks won't.
But the issue with Andrews is, since it's a bigger place in a bigger area, they may expect more people. More people may come to it. So we're going to try to be up there and assist with Andrews Police Department and with the town of Andrews for that event going on. And also with that event, historically has brought some very strong opinions one way or another about it, whether people are in support for it and wanted it to happen, and there's people on the opposite side of the spectrum that is very much against it and thinks it shouldn't be happening and shouldn't be going on. And so anytime you have people on opposite ends of the spectrums, and you also have differences of opinions about that and temperaments and different things. So we're going to try to be there and help out the situation up there, and hopefully everything will go fine and it'll go good, and we won't have any issues or any problems up there for New Year's Eve. I think everybody's looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's been around for a while in Clay County, so it has moved to Cherokee County now. So in the past, you haven't really had the Cherokee County Sheriff's Office had no involvement in
had limited involvement. We assisted with the transportation from Tri-County over to the event itself. We had security and stuff there, and then also on the folk school side, right there at the bridge at Clay's Corner, from the bridge and away from the corner is all Cherokee County across the river there. So. We had limited assistance with it, but it primarily fell on Clay County's shoulders, to pull the security and stuff for that. But now, like I say, with it being in Andrews and being in Cherokee County, we'll try to do as much as we can to assist with it.
All right. Yeah. Well, there is a missing person right now that the Sheriff's Office is looking for. We've shared that post on WKRK's post from the Sheriff's Office Facebook page. So there's a picture there of a female and a male.
Right.
Can you give us information about that?
Well, I can tell you this. I spoke to the detectives this morning right before I came over to the radio station, and they informed me that the family has had some limited contact with the missing females. She is alive and well. She's okay. She's not in their area to the best of our knowledge, and so they are tracking down where she is and who she could possibly be with and things of that nature. But she made contact with the family and basically told them, she's fine, don't be looking for me. And but of course we are still continuing.
So the situation is not an abduction or anything like that? Is a runaway situation?
It doesn't appear to be. It appears to be a runaway situation. Like I say, that's unconfirmed at this point. But through without getting in too much detail about it, with the place where she made contact from and talking with the folks down there and people who saw her and all that, it didn't appear that she was under duress of any kind.
Despite the situation of how that happened, we're at least happy to know that she is safe and she has had some kind of contact with her family. Just knowing that, having that question mark is the biggest part, I think, when people go missing. But if we know that she's in a safe environment.
I told somebody this one time, and I really believe this in my heart. I think the most traumatic thing a person can go through, even though they're very traumatizing events through losing your children in car wrecks and and accidents and different things that happen, can be very traumatizing, and I wouldn't minimize that at all. But I think one of the most traumatizing things a parent could go through would be a child to disappear and never know what happened to them.
I couldn't imagine
think that would just be unnerving on so many levels.
Because you're waiting so long for some kind of closure, and that closure isn't there until something significant comes up.
Right. Yeah. And the thing about it is, even though tragedy happens, even though bad things happen, there is a certain amount of closure with that, of knowing. And when you have these folks that lose a child, or a child runs away, or they disappear, or they're kidnapped, or whatever the event may be, for those folks that never hear from their child again, that there's just so many different levels of that is traumatizing to that person. It'd be, I could not even imagine even going through that.
All right, let's go to another topic. There was a high-speed chase resulting into arrest of a lady who was trafficking methamphetamine. So let's kind of.
I think that happened in Andrews.
Andrews, yes.
Yeah. That was a result of police work there in Andrews. Andrews Police Department was working on some issues up there and went to stop a vehicle, suspicious acting vehicle, and they went to pull it over. And the vehicle, of course, didn't stop, and the chase ensued. And I don't remember exactly how long it was. It was probably a 30-minute chase or something like that, 20 minutes anyway. And it went all over Andrews and the Pisgah area and back around, back down the city limits of Andrews, and then turned up toward Topton, going in that direction. The driver was a female that's identified from Robbinsville, so no doubt she was probably going back to an area where she was familiar with, and but didn't make it. Had an accident before she made it up to the county line, and she was arrested there on scene without injury. I think they did take her to the hospital to have her checked out, but there was around a trafficking amount of methamphetamine in the.
What constitutes a trafficking amount?
It has to be at least 1 ounce of methamphetamine. It's 28 grams. It has to be at least that to get into a trafficking range. And then after that, depending on the amount, it's going to different levels of trafficking. But I think she was around in that 28 gram range.
So that amount is basically, in layman's terms, not an amount that would be for personal use.
That would not be for personal use. That would be for sale and delivery.
Okay.
And so when you get into certain amounts of things, and each drugs are different. If you get into heroines and opioids and things of that nature, that goes all the way down to 4 grams. Just 4 grams of that is enough for trafficking, because you have to use such a minute amount for personal use. And so different, depending on whether it's pills, methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, whatever it may be, those levels could be different, but there is a place where you get to where the courts say, hey, just by the sheer volume of that's not personal amount. That's for sale and delivery. And when you get there, that falls into trafficking statute. And Andrews Police Department, of course, did make that arrest and brought her to jail. And I just want to, say kudos to the police department, because they are they did this year start rebuilding from the ground up, and they've got some officers up there and are now doing 24-hour patrols, and the chief is working with those guys up there and getting them going. And we're starting to see some arrests like that, some things coming out of Andrews. And so I just want to say kudos to the Andrews Police Department.
As the sheriff of Cherokee County, how does that make you feel, as far as at one time when Andrews was down to 0 officers, Cherokee County was having to fill in, and there was talk about letting the sheriff's office absorb the Andrews Police Department. So is this a move that you are happy with?
Very much so. Okay. Very much so. I spoke at an Andrews Town Board meeting about this as it was going on. And one of the things that, I tried to get the folks there in Andrews to understand and to think about was the fact of that nobody can take care of you better than you can take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And one of the illustrations I used was, one of my grandmothers, well, actually 2 were, but one in particular was put into a nursing home. She had reached a place in her life where she needed some specialized care, and the nursing home took care of her and did the best job they could do. And there was a lot of things that we weren't happy with as a family, but it wasn't because the nursing home wasn't doing their job. It was because they're not going to take care of grandma like I would take care of grandma.
Right.
And the thing about it is, even though the nursing home was doing the best of their ability and doing the best job they could do, as a family, you still want more because it's your family.
Absolutely.
And so I kind of equate that the same way with, what was going on up there with the police department in Andrews. As a sheriff's office, we can come in and absorb that, and we can take care of the needs there. We can respond to the calls. We can do the things that needs to be done. But as a taxpayer and as a person who lives within those city limits of Andrews, I would dare say that as someone living there, you feel more at home having your own folks, your own police department, your own people taking care of you, than you do having somebody taking care of you that has all these other responsibilities within the county and other communities to take care of and other places to go and other things to do. And that's why I say, other people can't take care of you better than you can take care of yourself. So I was very happy to see the police department remain. I was very happy to see the chief go up there and for them to start building back up from the ground. And that frees us up as a sheriff's office to go back out in the county and do the things in the rural parts of the county that we need to do out there and be involved in.
And that doesn't mean that the sheriff's office doesn't have a presence in Andrews, because you have jurisdiction countywide.
Right. And we're there every day, just like with Murphy and other places in the county. We patrol the streets wherever we are, wherever we see crime happening, whatever's going on. When Andrews has an issue where they have a major crime going on or they have something happening, we respond as backup units. We go assist them on their calls. Same with Murphy Police Department. It's nothing uncommon in the city limits of Murphy or Andrews, either one, to see a Murphy patrol car and a sheriff's car at the same place, because we do want to assist our brothers and sisters in uniform and make sure that we take care of one another.
All right. By the way, is it as weird for you, me being on this side of the desk?
Kind of strange.
As it is. It is strange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Normally I'm on the other side, but
right.
Tyler's pushing all the buttons today. He pushes my buttons every day, but today he's pushing the control board buttons. Yeah. And we welcome Tyler to WKRK, and he's doing a fantastic job. And
I know that through Facebook Live, the community is here. Mm-hmm. So I feel like when I'm talking here, I'm not talking to the community.
Hey, community. So that one little eyeball.
Right.
All right.
Hello from the background community.
There you go.
Staying in the control freak stage here.
Uh-huh.
I have a question for you from one of our Facebook Live viewers. Okay. Rumors allude to more administrative changes. Is there any truth to this?
Yes. We are making administrative changes there at the sheriff's office. As we look at what we're doing, one of the things I've said from 2014, and I put this out in an email to my staff the other day with some changes that went out. When we started this in 2014, one of the statements I made then, I've made continually since then, and I still make today, is that we need to get up every day evaluating what we're doing and how can we do it better.
Right.
And just because things may be going okay or just because things may be getting done doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop trying to do things better. And so as we come in 2019, and it's no big secret, it's just I don't think we need to hash it all out again, but there's been issues with the detention center and issues surrounding that, a lot of stuff going on there that we made a lot of changes with. And so we are looking also on the sheriff's office side and looking at what are we doing over here and what are some changes need to be made on this side. And we are making administrative changes over there, making some position changes, doing things for different. A couple of things I'll throw out there just so the community knows and what's happening. One of the things that we really want to do is we feel like that over the years that there's been an increasing need of going on with cases that involve children and families. That whether it's domestic violence issues, whether it's sexual assault issues, whether it's even elder abuse, the senior population, right. Those type of things. There's all those issues going on with that. And so we're looking at trying to have an investigator be assigned to the Department of Social Services to work with those folks out there all the time with them.
Would they have an office at
They
DSS?
would have an office there at DSS. And I have been talking with the new DSS director out there, Miss Amanda McGee. Mm-hmm. And so I've been talking with her about this, and we've been having meetings with her. And so they're very excited about this, about having an officer assigned at the DSS building to assist those with CPS cases that come in, and also adult protective services cases that come in, and helping that initial interview and the initial consultation on that, right. About what to do. The way it operates now is basically if a CPS call comes in, child protective services, if a child call or an adult call comes in with the Department of Social Services, typically what happens is they launch their investigation. They're mandated by law so many hours they have to look into something. And so they go into that investigation, and then once they're investigating, interviewing people, talking with people, if they determine a crime has occurred or they feel like a crime has probably occurred here, then they do a referral over to either the sheriff's office or police departments about what they found and what they felt like may be going on with this family. Then it comes through our office or police departments assigned to a detective. A detective then takes that case, has to go back out and re-interview people, talk to people, talk with the social workers, that type of thing. And so by placing a person in the DSS building, an investigator working with them, they can be on board with that investigation from the very beginning. And then that way you don't have to re-interview children 2 or 3 times. You don't have to bring people in. You don't have to re-interview adults and give people a chance to change their stories or to think about something differently before law enforcement has a chance to talk to them. And then vice versa on that also with law enforcement. We run across cases all the time that are criminal cases, but affects children and families. We do a referral to DSS, and that goes through their process of getting them to look into and something done with that. So we just think we can streamline the whole thing just by having an officer assigned out there with them and working together from the beginning.
By having an officer there, I know that you've done active shooter drills at the DSS building. Because things there, because of the nature of the work they do, things can happen there where there's some security issues.
Right.
Would that person who's assigned there as an officer, would that person also serve as we're here as a security?
We have discussed that, and we've talked about in the meetings that we've had with DSS, we talked about what is that person responsible for, what are they going to be expected to do, things of that nature. One of the things that we're very careful about, and we've talked with both our attorney and the DSS attorney about this as we're trying to merge this together, is it doesn't necessarily need to be a position of enforcement, right? Of you're not doing what DSS tells you to do, so we're going to force you to do it. That's not what the officer is for. The officer that's assigned out there is for law enforcement purposes. And so that could entail, if you had an unruly person or someone causing problems out there, that could entail that officer maybe stepping in and intervening if it need be. But also, DSS, on these discussions we've had, they're trained on how to de-escalate things and handle things. So it's not a situation where every time they have a person that's upset or mad, there's going to be a law enforcement officer in the ring with them.
Right.
It's just going to be they'll have an extra person out there in the event they need someone.
It is convenient to have someone on scene in case there is that problem, so you have to call and have someone, an officer come from Andrews or wherever.
And those laws, in those laws too, with DSS cases and how you investigate those in criminal cases and how you investigate those. So it's one of those things that we need to keep attorneys on board with through the whole process, and even after we start, giving some advice on that, because we don't want a CPS worker, for example, or a DSS worker to be working as an extended agent of law enforcement, right? And doing law enforcement duties and circumventing the law enforcement investigation so they can do things we can't do. We don't want to get into those areas or do those kind of things. There's 2 distinct roles and 2 distinct things that needs to be done. But I think with assigning a person out there, then you can streamline what needs to be done. And so everybody's very anxious about this. We're very excited about seeing how it works. And it's worked in other counties. Other counties have done it, and so we're just very anxious about that. The other thing that we're looking at doing, I know we probably don't have too much longer here, but and these administrative changes and position changes that we're doing, we are talking with the commission board. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting next week with a couple of the commissioners and some other folks in the community about this animal control issue, right? And about all the issues that surround the animal ordinance and animal control and what the community wants, what they expect out of the sheriff's office, what they expect out of the commission board, what they expect as far as animals and animal welfare within the community. And so we're having those discussions about doing that. And so we're looking at and the way we change things around, hopefully having either a detective position or a patrol position set aside for the purpose of animal control and dealing with animal calls that we get. One of the things that we're talking about with that is not necessarily just the criminal aspect of it as far as your dangerous dogs and dog bites and attacks and things of that nature, but that whole animal control end of it as far as nuisance animals and barking dogs and animals destroying other people's property and those type of things, unruly animals. And anytime you talk about that, you also, just like we talked about the possum drop, anytime you deal with animals, you have very strong opinions on both sides. You have very strong opinions. You have very strong opinions to the extreme of it's my animal, they should roam free, and nobody should tell me what to do or how to do or what to do with my animals. And then you have that other very extreme of this is my property I have in Cherokee County, and I don't want other people's animals on my property, crossing my property, being on my property type of thing. And so we have to have some very real discussions about that, about where is the proper place? Where is that happy medium in that we need to deal with? There's always a concern with, hunters, for example, and people with hunting dogs and that whole aspect of that. But animal control has worked in other counties, and it's worked in other places where hunting happens and where you have bear hunters and deer hunters and rabbit hunters and squirrel hunters and all kind of other things in these other counties, and they have working animal control places. So we need to look at what they're doing, see what works, right? And see what fits in Cherokee County and what doesn't fit in Cherokee County. And I don't think anybody that I've talked to is in favor of a leash law and keep dogs on your own property and they can't roam and can't be free to do whatever. But I think there is certain responsibilities that need to be done with that, and there are different laws on the books as far as rabies and vaccinations and different things that need to be done that we need to be working on and make sure that we take care of. So we're in negotiations about that and talking about what is that going to look like and what is that going to do. So those are just a couple things, that's kind of up high on the priority list that we're looking at.
The town of Murphy itself does have a leash law, correct?
They do, and Andrews does.
And Andrews, the city's...
They have an animal ordinance in Andrews. I'm not sure if there's an actual leash law with that. But.
So I'm not sure exactly what kind of enforcement is there, but that is on the books. But county's a little different story because there's a lot of rural areas.
Rural.
I have trouble with that word, rural areas in the county that you're not just right there up on somebody living. So, it is a discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah.
I know the majority of our commissioners don't even want to talk about an animal ordinance.
Right. Well, we do have an animal ordinance. There is an animal ordinance on the books. The problem with the animal ordinance, though, and I did one of these presentations, I don't remember when it was, last year maybe, at a commission meeting, but one of the problems with the animal ordinance as it exists is there just a few things need to be tweaked on it. Some things need to be changed on it because it's not able to be enforced the way it is. According to the courts, according to the district attorney's office and the courts and things we charged in the past with it. So it's not like needing to create an ordinance from scratch. We already have an ordinance. We just need to look at some of those things that need to be tweaked and need to be changed and figure out how that works with Cherokee County and what we can do here so we can have an enforceable ordinance. And one of the things that we don't want to do, one of the things that we don't want to get into is just, do the knights with the sword and hail somebody, an animal control officer, and then they can't go out and do anything, because I think that's going to create more problems than we already have. And I don't think people out there that wants animal control wants to be patronized in that manner either. I think they are looking for something to be done and looking for some real solutions to some of their problems and things they have out there. And I think if we're going to do this, we need to do it the right way. And we need to look at making the changes that need to be made, hiring the people that needs to be hired, equipment, and all those issues that come with that. And I think if we're going to do it, we need to do it the right way. And that's what I've always been a proponent of.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I know it's been a very busy week. Folks have been reading the newspaper and things like that.
Right.
And we discussed the administrative changes and some other changes you're making at the department. And,
right.
and I think it's important that, like you said, there's no need to rehash everything that's going on, but it's important to identify problems and then focus on the solution.
Right.
And I think that's what you're doing.
That's
now.
what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm attempting to do.
If we focus on the problem too much, then that's all we're focusing on. So I'm glad there's a discussion. And so here's how we can fix that.
Right.
And
I think that's what people expect is, what are you going to do about things? What are you going to do about issues, right? And so that's what we're attempting to do now, is make those changes. And one thing I want to say along those lines too is this, and I had an officer this week that had turned in a resignation because he wanted to go work for a different agency. He called me back, I think it was Christmas night or another night. He called back and he said, listen, he said, I've been thinking about this, and he said, I hope you're not mad at me, but he said, I've really reconsidered. He said, I really love working at the sheriff's office, and I want to stay there. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be when I went to this other agency, kind of thing. And so, the discussion I had with him was, I've never fault anybody for wanting to better themselves.
Right.
If they find a better job or can help themselves out or help their families out or make a better career path or better steps for themselves, that doesn't bother me. That doesn't fault me. Or doesn't fault that person, and I totally understand that, and I don't hold that against you. I want you to stay, come work. But it kind of along the same philosophy comes along with making changes, administrative changes, and different things. There's nothing wrong with if we're making changes and doing things if you're not agreeing with it and you don't like it, and you don't like the changes we're making, and you want to work somewhere else, or you want to go retire, or you want to quit, or you want to go whatever, no harm, no foul, right? But these are changes that we have to make, and these are things that we have to do.
And not everybody's going to be excited or happy with something different.
Right. And believe it or not, people don't like change.
I've noticed that.
They don't like when things change, but it's a necessity. Our county has changed so much in the last 5 years. Things have drastically different than they were 5 years ago. And as an elected official, as the sheriff of the county, I can't just sit back and say I want to operate and run like we did 20 years ago, because I liked it then and I liked the way things were then, and I want to keep everything the same as it was then. When your county is changing around you, you have to change with it, and you have to do things differently. And sometimes that means being fluid. Sometimes that means these are decisions we're going to make today. This is the path we're going to go down. And then 6 months later, it's like, oh, wait a minute, that ain't working. That was not a good decision, or that decision didn't work out the way I thought it was. We're going to have to back up and do things differently. And so that's kind of what we're looking at going into 2019 and going into these next 4 years, is reflecting back on the past 4 years, what worked well, what went well, what went very good, but what are some of the complaints? What are some of the problems? What are some of the things that we didn't fix? What are some of the things that we can do differently? And so one of the things I've really been evaluating this past year and looking into going into 2019 is, what am I hearing from the community? What is the community complaints? What are the things that are going on out there? Drugs is always an issue. It's always a problem. It's always something that people complain about. What have we done to address that? How can we do that better? Okay, these are the things we've done. These are accomplishments we made. But here are still some issues and problems the community has, so we're going to have to do things differently. And those are all changes that I'm looking at making and trying to implement.
And there's absolutely no problem with saying, okay, we tried this, it didn't work, so let's scrap that.
Right.
We try things all the times that don't work.
I will say this too, and I want to make, I'm the kind of person, I'm pretty transparent, and people know me, and and I pretty much tell you whatever. But the fact of the matter is, when you come into a position of sheriff, and I tell people this all the time, Andy Griffith said it the best when he's talking to Barney. He said, Barney, deputying is a lot different than sheriffing, right? It's two different things. And so when you come into the office of sheriff, that first term, it really is, I don't care how long you've worked at the sheriff's office, when you sit in that seat and you have all the responsibilities on your shoulder, that first term is a learning experience. Oh, yeah. You learn a lot of things that you didn't know before that, and you learn a lot of things about people you didn't know before that. You learn a lot of things about community that you didn't know before that. You learn a lot of things about administration and what you can do and what you can't do. When you're campaigning on a campaign trail and you've never done that before, and you've never sat in that seat, and you've never had that responsibility, it's easy to talk about all these great ideas and all these things you want to accomplish and all these things you want to do. But when you get in the seat, you realize the constraints that are around you. You realize the financial constraints, budgetary constraints, commission restraints, county government constraints, laws, different things that kind of make sense to you that you want to accomplish, but there's all these constraints that keep you from doing that. And so that first year, or the first 4 years that you serve as sheriff, that first term, is really a huge learning process of trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. So hopefully, I can say I've learned a few things the first 4 years, and the second 4 years, hopefully we can implement some of the things that I learned the first 4 years.
And in your job, it doesn't matter who you are, who runs for the office. As soon as you get elected sheriff, you make a lot of brand new best friends because you're the sheriff. Right. You also make a bunch of
brand new
enemies for whatever reason. They are automatically going to be against you.
Right. Yeah.
And it's one of those situations I don't envy being in that kind of role.
Right.
So I'll stick in radio.
I was saw a comment somebody had made the other day on the social media page about the sheriff's office, and was really using foul language and how awful we were and that kind of thing. But when you read through it, their loved one had got arrested for child support, and they were complaining about all these things that was going on, but they followed it up by saying, but they arrest this one for child support, and you did this, and you arrested my loved one, you arrested my family member, you did this kind of thing. And when you really look through that, it's not because you're an awful person or you're an awful officer. It's because they're upset because their family member got arrested.
Right. The anger's been misdirected.
Yeah, and so you one of the things I've learned those first 4 years was you're going to have enemies regardless. Mm-hmm. The best job you can do, doing the best thing you can do, you're still going to have people against you. You're still going to have enemies.
And you can't take everything personally, can you?
You can't. You really can't. You can't take it personal.
And it's hard sometimes.
And really, I'll be honest with you, 2018, I took a lot of things personal. Mm-hmm. I took a lot of things personal because I got blindsided and hit with a lot of things that I didn't expect. And I especially in that election year, when you're into that election cycle, you know, for the first 3 years, we wasn't hearing anything bad from the community, wasn't hearing anything bad from the public. Just a few people, but nothing community-wise going on. So I really went into that election cycle thinking, hey, man, we're in great shape, and which we were. I mean, I won by 70%, but, you know, thinking, hey, we're in great shape, community's happy, everybody's happy, but man, as soon as I put my name on that line to get reelected, I found out how awful I was, you know.
And in 2017, Derek had all his hair. Yeah, he lost it 2018.
You know, and how awful everything is and everybody is, you know, and how evil we are and all those kind of things, you know. And really 2018 honestly caught me by surprise. It really did. And you know, a lot of things I took personal in 2018, and a lot of things really got me down and depressed in 2018. Right. And a lot of things went on in 2018. But going into 2019, you know, I've reached a place and analyzing that and looking at that to realize that it's not personal. It's, you know,
it's politics.
It's politics. You know, people will come after you for whatever reasons. You'll have enemies for whatever reasons. Mm-hmm. And it could be because you're on the wrong political side or because they like the previous staff better or, you know, or you arrested their loved one or they wanted you to do something that you couldn't do. And because you couldn't do it, now, you know, they have no use for you. So right. It's all in the political realm.
I think my favorite one is when the guy didn't wave it. When you didn't wave at the guy.
Yeah, that was the one that kind of just caught me by surprise. He was never voting for me again because I passed him on the highway and I didn't wave at him. Didn't see him. So
you lost my vote there.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
That's it. But you know, we can't dwell on those hurts. We can't dwell on those things that happen. All we can do is look at 2019 and how can we do things better.
2019 is a brand new year.
Yeah. And so, you know, I've just resigned myself to the fact that the media can report whatever they want to report. They can write whatever they want to write. And whatever's happened, but we can't change anything. We can't do anything. All we can do is look at 2019. How can we do it better? And that's where my goal is going to be for the next 4 years.
I tell you what, you want to change up your public image. Favorite thing a public figure's ever done was when Jeb Bush went to a Dairy Queen, started passing out his flyers in the drive-thru.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how you get yourself out there.
Yeah, yeah, that will work.
Wait, let's see. He didn't do so well, did he?
but I do want to. I know we're running long, but one thing I do want to say in addition to that is even though, you know, we had a lot of hurt and a lot of bad things happen in 2018, a lot of things caught us off guard. Mm-hmm. I do want to say that I do so much appreciate the outpouring of encouragement that I get from people.
Right.
You know, I mean, you know, through this Christmas season, for example, and going out to eat and different things, you know, at least 4 or 5 different times that my wife and I went out to eat or went to eat with the sheriff's office or went to eat with other people or just out in the public. You know, I get up to pay my bill and somebody says, hey, so-and-so's, you know, somebody's already paid your lunch for you. They just said, tell you Merry Christmas. They appreciate everything you're doing, appreciate your hard work.
It's a great community.
And so, you know, and not just that, but through all the drama and the detention stuff and all the media reports and all the things that's going out, you know, it's amazing that the text messages I get and phone calls and people that call, it just says, hey, we support you. We're behind you. You know, you're doing a great job. Keep it up. You know, don't get down. Hold your head up. You're a good person. You run a good office, and I can't thank the community enough for that.
We do live in a great community
of what they do. You know, because you do have those days that you just want to get in your car and drive off and never come back.
I get that too. You know, this is our last show of the year,
right?
And I just want to thank you for coming here because I know you've had the troubles at times.
Right.
You didn't want to come in and talk about some certain things, and I'm not here to. This is mainly a public service. I'm not here to just nail you and just grill you and try to make you look horrible to the community, but I think for the most part, we've been very transparent and talked about some issues.
Yeah.
and but yet maintain the public service part of this program to let folks know about safety and what's going on. I mean, we're not a pro or a con. We're not trying to persuade anyone politically, but we appreciate the fact that you have come on here, been transparent about some of the issues that you've been facing.
Well, I mean, obviously, the fact of the matter is nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. Right. You know, things happen. You know, and when you have 100 employees, there's going to be issues and things out there, just like we've talked about before, that catch you off guard that you don't realize, you know, is going on. And so, but we still try to do the best job we can do and serve our community the best of our ability. And I just want to thank you as a radio station, even our local media also, you know, Cherokee Scout and different people. You know, I know they all have a job to do, and they have to report news when it's out there, and they have to report the facts. And I will tell you this, that, you know, with our local media, with Cherokee Scout, you know, they're very good about where they're going to write a report to sit down and say, hey, this is what's coming down the pike. This is what we're working on. Do you have any comments, anything you want to talk about? What's your side of this? You know, and so I think it's very good from our local media to do that, because I don't get that from other media. Right. And I don't get it from media, from blogs down the state, and I don't get it from other places that are out there. They write their stories first and then send me a message, say by 4 o'clock today it's going out. Do you have anything you want to say about it? You know,
and sometimes you just don't have time to respond,
right? Because
you're doing your job,
right? You may not see the email till the next day, you know, and so, you know, I just want to thank all our local media for that, and I believe in the media. I believe things need to be reported, and I think things need to be hashed out and need to be transparent. You know, so I just want to thank our local media for all the good jobs they do, and thank WKRK for having us on. That way we can just talk to our community and talk to our people that's out there.
All right. Well,
I know we went a long day. We went here last week, though, so it don't.
We had to make up for it, right?
Yeah. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well, and we'll see you in 2019.
Yeah, I'm cutting you off, Sheriff.
Ain't coming back no more this year.
Enough out of you. All righty. We appreciate having you as always. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Tim, for the commentary as well. And we'll go ahead and get to a commercial break, and soon later, Pastor Odd Brown with his last. Well, no, this is not his last sermon of the year. We got a couple more left, but we'll get over to that very soon.
We all know what it's like to spend the holidays separated from the ones we love. You don't have to choose between